Hey, good morning to you too. Oh, where did you go? Yeah, getting a slot break, and I'm feeling lazy. I should be expanding my chicken pen, but I'm not. I'm sitting in the house, dreading going to work today. I got to be there at 6, but the chicken run needs to be expanded because they're in my garden, and I don't want them eating my English peas when they come up. But I just don't feel like going outside and doing anything. So I figured I would see who showed up here that would rather chat than work like me. Just not in the mood to do anything. Mine's not been up long enough to need to clean. I built the original part. I think it was in early January. I've only been in this place since last February, and I was lucky enough that I had a well that had a house built around it, and then another well was dug on the property, a deep well. So the shallow well has a cover over it, and I've got water in case of an emergency. So I just opened that up, put them in it, fenced off an area around it, and let them go. And since then, I've acquired about 60 more chickens, and it's only about 30 by 30. So I've got to add on some more because right now I'm just letting them free range the yard, and it helps cut down on the food bill. So I got the expander either. I got the fence in my garden, and my garden's almost a third to a half an acre, so it's easier to build a chicken run than it is to fence in a big old garden. 5 would be the ideal number for me, just to have eggs for myself and a few to give my mom and my dad or a neighbor. But I sell a lot of live birds to Hispanic people. They want fresh food. They'll pay double the price of what the grocery store charges. I get $10 for a little skinny yard bird rooster, a Cornish cross, the meat bird you buy at the store that weighs 4 or 5 pounds. They won't touch them. They'd rather have a skinny old well summer or something like that, old rooster, yard rooster, game rooster. They'll take them $10 a piece all day long, and I ain't even got to pluck them. I ain't got to butcher them or nothing. Just here you go. They'll take two or three of them, tie their legs together, and throw them in the back of the truck, and off they go. It works out great, and it works out good for me because then I can take and that's what I did the last time. I sold a few that I had, and I turned around and bought 50 more from Myers Hatchery, and now I've got chickens out the butt. Oh yeah, Hispanic people. That's what they're used to. They're used to having fresh, very fresh. A lot of their markets in Mexico and Guatemala, Honduras, places like that. You go and you pick out the chicken you want from the cage, and it's butchered right there in front of you, or either you take it home and you butcher it. And I have to say, those people, they know what good food is. They eat very well. I was a foreman with a concrete company several years ago, and I had 30 Mexicans that were working for me. And every time I would go pick them up for work or drop them off at home, man, their food was amazing. True Mexican food. Taco Hell ain't got nothing on that. And all these Mexican restaurants, that's not Mexican food. That's just Americanized, just to make Americans think they're eating foreign food. That stuff Mexicans made, oh my God, it was so good. And their houses were, hey, I'll be honest with you, it's cleaner than mine. My house is a wreck. I've got paper strewn everywhere. I've got garden soil in my sink where I was getting ready to plant some seeds in some cups, and I still haven't planted the seeds. But hey, I got the soil moist. I just got to get it in the cups, put the seeds in it, and I just don't feel like doing a damn thing today. But yeah, I believe it is going to rain later. There's no sun. It's clouding up. The chickens they get another free day in the yard wherever they want to go. Maybe tomorrow I'll fill up to going out there, or later on this afternoon maybe I'll go out there and put the T post down, and then all I got to do is pull the wire. I'm not going to do anything fancy and stretch it and make it all nice and tall. I mean, as long as it holds them in, I really don't care. Exactly. Real Mexican food is in a class by itself. In the South, we have a restaurant chain called El Potros. We've got Rancheros. We've got a few that are family owned. Now, those aren't too bad. They're as close to real Mexican as what you're going to get, but they still kind of dumb it down for Americans. They cater to the American taste bud instead of their own. And no, I'd rather have the real thing. Like whenever I worked in concrete, we had a Mexican lady that drove a little truck, and she would come by every day at lunchtime. And man, her tacos, oh my lord! And then there was one man that did it out of a van, and the best taco I ever had was made out of pork kidneys, and it had I think it was a goat cheese. I'm not sure, but it was a fresh crumbling cheese. Oh my gosh! And the homemade salsa verde. Wow, man! I bet I spent $10 on lunch that day, and the tacos weren't but $1 a piece, and you got a canned drink to go with it. Man, I'm telling you, I tore it up. I enjoyed that lunch. It was good. You're getting hungry, and I'm thinking about. I forgot to buy cilantro seeds. I've got to get some of that started because I live in South Georgia, and actually it's the blueberry capital of Georgia. We've got several thousand acres of blueberries planted. I mean, farmers have 100-acre fields are small. So around May and June, we have a lot of migrant workers come through, and I really should have already had my peppers and stuff started. So hopefully I can get a few started in the next, right at the end of frost, which my last frost date's the first of April, last of March. So if I can get them in the ground at the last of March, fertilize them pretty good. I've got a pond by the house, so put a fish up under it. Oh yeah, it's going to grow quick, and hopefully I'll have some peppers to sell whenever they come through town, or at least that's my goal. And then we have a resident population of them. You know, it's not the several thousand that come through for the harvest season, but we've got probably 2 or 3 thousand resident Hispanics. We've got one Hispanic grocery store that, you know, they cater to them with their ingredients, you know, staple foods such as their corn, mesa flour, and stuff. And I'm trying to get in with them with some fresh vegetables and produce and some meat birds. Because as long as I sell them live, I don't fall under Department of Ag rules. But if I sell them dressed, I'm only allowed to sell 1,000 dressed birds a year without having to be inspected. Or I can sell 2,500 rabbits dressed a year. I don't know what the difference between a rabbit and a chicken is. I mean, I don't get it. You get to sell 2,500 rabbits that you butcher, but only 1,000 birds that you butcher on your own property. It's a goat or a pig. I can't sell that to someone and butcher it here. They have to take it somewhere and have it processed. Or either I take it to the processor and they pay the processing fee after they pay me, and then they go pick up their meat. I'm not allowed to do that on my own place. We have two grocery stores in my town, an IGA and a small chain called Harvey's. I don't know who owns that chain, but it's part of a larger chain. There's 12 than the stuff that comes in the jar. As a matter of fact, every couple of years I mix up a big batch and have, you know, several quarts to last me for a year, and I'll do 2 or 3 years worth at once. That way I don't have to do it every year. But I do a lot. I like the Mexican food a lot, and I'm going to try and branch out into some Asian food. We don't have very many Asian people here, but I like Asian food. But by far, my favorite has been Middle Eastern, Mediterranean. I love shawarma. I can't even pronounce it correctly, but there's a little restaurant in Jacksonville, Florida called the Holla Bakery, and I love that place. I mean, they've got all kinds of Arabic food. I think it's actually Lebanese, and that food is amazing. I mean, it is so good, and I'm going to try and market my goats to them. So hopefully, you know, I do a dual purpose goat. I have Nubians that are meat or dairy, and hopefully I'll be doing some cheese and meat goats for the Arab market, because I've got Savannah, Georgia, and Jacksonville, Florida close by. And both of those have a pretty good sizable population of Middle Eastern and Arab people. You know, as long as they don't try to blow me up, I'm okay. I have no problem with them, except for the one in Congress, or the two in Congress, that are very anti-Jewish. And personally, I'm not a big fan of Israel myself, but I know when to keep my mouth shut, especially if I'm in politics, and not say anti-Semitic things, because it doesn't do you any good to be a racist at all. That's just like Trump with his border wall. Hey, build the wall. We need national security, but put doors in it. Let these people in. Give them a number. Let them have a job. Let them have a driver's license. Just don't let them vote, and don't let them get government services unless they're paying income taxes. That's my only problem. They don't pay income taxes. They all work under the table. The concrete company I work for, they had two Mexicans that were legal. And the guy who owned it, who's actually a relative of mine, he funneled over $500,000 through their bank accounts to pay all the illegal Mexicans under the table. And then he would, on top of that, help pay the guy's income taxes because he was a legal resident of the United States. So he would help pay his income taxes. Well, these other guys getting paid under the table weren't paying any taxes. And they'd save their money. And when they had enough to buy their land and their house, they went back home. They didn't want to stay in this country. This is just an opportunity to make money for them. They were supporting themselves and their family, and I've got no problem with that. My only problem is pay income taxes. That's it. If I got to pay them, you got to pay them. I don't care who you are. I don't care what language you speak. But if you come to this country, you better speak to me in English. I'm American, damn it. And that's with an Murican, American. Yeah, you used to live in Jacksonville a long time ago. I promise you, you would not recognize it today because I was there 3 years ago and it had been 10 years since I'd been there and it was a completely different town. Exactly. If they're going to live here, they need to abide by the rules. And that doesn't mean cross over the border illegally. That makes you a criminal in this country right at the second you set foot here. And the Democrats can't seem to understand that. Yes, we have rights. Yes, they have rights. But they do not have the rights of an American citizen because they are not American citizens and they are not legal residents of the United States. Once they become legal, yes, give them the same rights that we do. But until that time, no, I don't believe in that at all. Because otherwise, why do we even have country borders? Then again, we could even say that's biblical prophecy. Globalization, I'm not for it. I'm sorry, I'm a nationalist. The last time there was a TV made in this country was 1975 or 1976. After that, they were all made overseas. Can you believe it? We don't even have a company that makes a TV in this country. That's pathetic. We need to get back to our manufacturing roots. Middleburg, Florida, or Middleburg, Tennessee? Middleburg, Florida has grown quite a lot in the last little while too, which the whole state of Florida has grown quite a bit because the snowbirds, they're all flying south. Yeah, my sister lived in Fernandina. Um, she lived there for about 18 years, and over that 18 years, it's changed. I mean, during the wintertime, it was nothing but Canadians. They'd all go home during the summer, but the wintertime, it was all Canadians. But Florida, which I've got a friend that lives in Miami, and he's lived. He was raised here in South Georgia with me, and then after college, he lived in Atlanta for a little while. He's lived in San Diego, a couple other places. He's lived across the U.S. and he does tax law. And right now, he's in Miami, and he actually married an immigrant, a woman. I believe she's from Brazil. She's from South America, but she came here illegally, and I never thought he would have gotten married. He confirmed bachelor, but he did. He married himself a nice woman that they seem like a good couple. But she got here the legal way. Oh, Navy baby. I can't complain about that. The only thing I can say about the Navy is anytime us Marines had a place to go, y'all were always ready to give us a ride. But I gotta admit, the Navy and the Marine Corps, those boys got my heart. The Army and the Air Force, nah, not so much. My Super Bowl is the Army Navy football game, and I was so disappointed this past year. Navy's got to do better next year. I mean, come on, really? Navy can do a lot better than what they did this past year. But that I don't care about professional football. I didn't even watch the Super Bowl this year. But whenever it's Army Navy Day, yep, Morgan's calling in sick. He's calling in drunk. He's calling in something because he ain't going to work. He's going to watch Army Navy football. The only football game of the year I care about. Because those boys, they give it their all. They give it hard. Half the size of all the other players in the college and professional league, but yet they can hit twice as hard. I'm talking about them boys. They give it all to them. Oh, I don't have cable either. I kept having to flip back and forth on Facebook Live when somebody would start up a stream and they'd find out it was going, they'd shut it down because, ESPN or someplace, they had the TV rights to it to broadcast it. But, somebody out there at the game is going to Facebook Live what they see. So I was flipping back and forth to who had it live at the time, and I caught it for free on Facebook. But no, I haven't owned a TV in years, and the last time I did, I haven't paid for cable in over 20. And the last time I had TV, I used an antenna. If I'm going to watch TV, I'm just going to do the standard aerial. I mean, all I need is basic TV if I'm watching it. Yeah, I would listen to a football game on the radio. NASCAR, I like to watch NASCAR, but I'm not going to listen to it on the radio because all you hear is they're making a left turn. They're making a left turn. They're making a left turn. Come back 10 minutes later, they're making a left turn. Unless it's somewhere like Watkins Glen. Oh, they threw a right in on us. But when it comes to NASCAR, I like Darlington, and other than that, I like the super speedways where they've got to have the restrictor plates because, man, if you've never been to a NASCAR race, first one, first and only one I've ever been to was Daytona 500 in '96, I believe it was, and it was amazing. 2.5 mile track. Every 30 seconds, the ground would shake. You couldn't hear the person screaming next to you. It was so loud. And then all of a sudden, you could hear a pin drop. I was within sight of the Talladega Speedway when they had the Daytona 500 that Dale Earnhardt was killed in a wreck. And we were on storm trouble. I was working power lines at the time. And we had companies from 7 or 8 different states there. A massive spring storm had come through and torn up a third of the state. There were a couple million people without power, but a lot of them were listening to the radio and they were listening to the race. And whenever it happened, every bucket came down. Everybody stopped work. And to that point, people were complaining about not having their power turned on. But whenever it was Dale Earnhardt and he had just died, nobody said a word about us not working. We spent half an hour on the ground out of respect for what had happened, showing our respect for him, and not one person complained. There were people bringing us beer out of the ice chest. There were people bringing us barbecue chicken off the grill because even without power, they were still enjoying themselves because it was race day. Hey, Tim and Amy, how you guys doing today? You're cooking it. What are you cooking? I might want to come over and eat because I'm just trying to avoid doing any work outside, even though it's not raining. I just don't feel like doing anything today. I've got to go to work at 6, and I don't feel like doing a damn thing, even though I need to be expanding my chicken run to keep them out of my garden. And look, it's not raining here in southeast Georgia at the moment, but the sun's not shining, so I got a feeling it's going to rain sometime soon. The sooner the better as far as my garden goes. That way it'll put the chickens back in their house because I got them free ranging in the yard. Oh, I haven't made a homemade pizza in a long time. I used to love to make my own bread and pizza dough, man. There's nothing like homemade pizza dough, especially sourdough pizza dough. Man, that's good stuff. You guys are going to eat great today. Let's see, Christy, you're from Long Island, right? I can't remember. If that's what I remember seeing that you were from Long Island, the place where Alexandria Occasional Cortex is from. Hey, there's nothing wrong with carnivore. They would eat me if they had a chance, so why not eat them first? That's the way I see it. That's like vegans. I'm not about that. I'm a member of people. PETA. People eating tasty animals. All right. Don't burn your pizza. That was nice for you guys to drop by. I'll be here for a while because I'm really being lazy today. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a meatitarian, but you better throw in some green beans once in a while because sooner or later your colon's going to catch up to you. But yes, sir, I've got to have my meat. Every once in a while, I'll go vegetarian on a meal or two, but that's usually breakfast, and that's called milk and cereal. But other than that, there's going to be some meat involved in what I eat. I eat plenty of vegetables, but I still want my fried chicken and stuff like that. Oh, I know the feeling. I don't want to get moving either. You know, I just don't feel like doing anything today. It's my lazy Saturday. I mean, I go to college during the day and then I work in the evenings, and it's not like I don't have plenty of time to myself, but today is just not the day for me to do anything. My natural laziness is showing. I've got rolls of donated fence wire in the yard, and I haven't moved it to the back, leaving it in the front. I've got an animal shelter flipped over on its top. And boy, that rooster out there needs to learn how to crow. That was, I don't know if you heard it, but that was pathetic. But I got to get it moved over to the side. It's going to be another chicken pen. That way I can get some Domineckers. I want some true heritage breed. That way I can have some hatchlings to sell and get a good price. Yeah, it's muddy here too. And I haven't had more than a quarter of an inch of rain in the last week, and my tiller still gets bogged down in my garden spot. And I'm on a slope down to a pond. So even though it's basically this angle, it's still muddy as all get out. I'm talking about you'll sink an inch in the dirt if it's not tilled up. If it's tilled up, you can sink up to your ankles. It's so muddy. I was lucky to get my English peas and my Irish potatoes planted, and I'm hoping that they haven't started to sprout yet and give me some time to get these chickens pinned up, which I reckon tomorrow is just going to be a do as little as possible at church day, get the heck out of there as quick as possible, get home and get started working because I've got to work again tomorrow evening too and Monday. But Tuesday, hopefully, I will have nothing on my schedule, no class, no work, and then I usually get up around 8, and since I broke my back 3 years ago this March, every morning I have to get up about 2 hours early, take a Percocet, get over the soreness of sleeping because my muscles and joints got stiff from not moving and they just get cold. And then once I'm able to move around, then I sit here and watch YouTube videos from about 7 or 8 in the morning till about 10 or 11. And during that, I'll get some breakfast and then I go piddle around and do stuff. Well, as long as the wind blows, I don't think you'll have a problem with trees. Yeah, I do have a lot on my plate. I try to stay busy or at least keep my mind stays busy trying to figure out what to do next because I've always been one to do more planning because the more you put into planning, the less you have to put into physical labor. So I spend more time planning out how to do something than I actually do getting it done. I always learned work hard, work smart, not hard. And I'm a firm believer in that. And since I hurt my back, I promise you, I work smart. Most folks at work, they'll pick up that 40-pound box of fries and carry it up front. Nah, I'm not. I can't do it. I can do it, but I'm not going to because I know 1 or 2 trips and I'm done for the day. It's time for me to clock out and go home because I'm in pain. So Morgan will just open the box up, get a bag in each hand, carry it up there. I'll make 2 or 3 trips. No big deal. Just takes me an extra minute or two, but I'm not killing myself for anybody. Yeah, you're right. You keep your mind busy, it keeps your mind off what's bothering you. And that's exactly what I tell people whenever it comes to physical or emotional pain of any kind. Start thinking about what you want in the future and how you're going to get there, and it'll take your mind off what's bothering you at the moment, and you won't have near as many aches and pains or emotional stress. You won't have near as much. Just start planning, and by all means, I learned something from my dad. Keep a pencil and a little bitty notebook, one of those little small ones, you know, about the size of that evil habit right there in your pocket. And whenever you have an idea, just jot it down because you can come back to it later, expand on it, and then it'll save you time and money in the long run. I wish I had someone to wait on to bring up chicken feed and dog food, but I was only blessed with one daughter, and she lives 45 minutes away, and she's probably chasing my grandson who's going to turn 3 this year all over the house. She's getting paid back for all the times that I had to chase her around. At 2 years old, 2.5 years old, this kid put a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a VCR and thought I was going to get on to her, and I laughed like hell at it. And I was about 200 yards from my mom and dad's house at time, and she tore out. I was in the bathroom. I come out, my child is gone. I had no idea what happened. And I look around, there's something hanging out the VCR, and it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. If you write lists down and lose them, there's a channel you need to check, Aylm's Farm, Aylem. All this woman does is make a list and video it. And I went back through her video list and I saw some where they actually had some projects going on and worked on projects. And I just commented to her real nicely, your older videos are so much better because you weren't always making a list. You were doing things and they were actually a lot better than what I'm seeing now. Could you do more of that? And she smarted off of me about this is how I do things because it makes it easier for me. All right, honey, you make your damn list and see what you get done because all you do is make a list about how to make a list. And that's all I've seen out of her. And I'll watch 5 seconds of each video just out of pure meanness to make her analytics go down. I don't get to see my grandson as often as I'd like, but when he gets a little bit older, you can be sure when he comes to Grandpa's house, his behind gonna be out there working in the garden with me because you're gonna eat at my house, you're gonna work at my house. Even my cat's got a job, and he knows he better catch a mouse if he sees one, or else he ain't gonna get any kibble. Everything here's got a purpose and a job. They own the payroll, not the dole. The thought occurred to me I could go over there and get the bucket of soil that I have moistened up in my stack of cups, and I could start putting that soil in those cups, but I don't even feel like doing that. I'll do that later before I go to work. It won't take a few minutes, and then I might go live again tonight just to see who pops in, and I'll plant my tomato seeds in. I was watching some videos earlier, and I saw Justin Rhodes posted a video about comments to where now if there is a minor in any of our videos, YouTube has disabled comments because of predators and predatory comments about children. And I'm thinking to myself, um, Justin's a responsible parent and blogger. Jess at Roots and Refuge. All of these guys that I follow that have kids in their videos, that's part of the reason why they're watched is because of those children. And not being able to make a comment on a video that has a minor in it, I believe it's the blogger's responsibility to go through. I read all of my comments. Anybody makes, I read them. If they're inappropriate, I mean, I've got the little flag words put out there and stuff like that. And it's like Al Lumna with Lumna Acres. I mean, I love watching him and his daughter have a good time getting the eggs and riding the snow sled and stuff like that. Well, the rain ought to do your pea seed some good because it'll take a little while for the moisture to get inside that pea for it to actually rehydrate so that the germ inside will actually be able to grow. So they should be fine unless they get washed away. I've had that happen before. But yeah, it seems the liberal left has invaded YouTube, and now we don't know how to judge whether or not a comment on our video is appropriate or not and report it. I mean, really, how socialist is America going to become? Are we going to become a communist nation like Venezuela, where in 20 years we're begging for food because there's not any? No, I don't think stopping the comments is either. YouTube either needs to A, go back to the way it was and let us be responsible for the comments on our vlogs, or B, they need to hire some people to go through and read comments and be done with it, which I see that as an invasion of privacy. But what can we do? I mean, it's YouTube. YouTube's like Walmart. It's an evil empire, but yet you're stuck with it. We have no other place that's got a social platform for us to do these videos and have this discussion about gardening and topics that we like. So we're stuck going by their rules. Well, we're glad you're back, Tim and Amy. I'm assuming you're Amy. We were just talking about YouTube's new rule to where if there is a minor in your video, YouTube has disabled comments because of predatory comments and child predators. And I believe that's just an attempt at censorship, because any responsible vlogger is going to go through their comments and they're going to read them, and if it's something that needs to be reported, they're going to do the right thing. They're going to report them. I mean, do we really need the government or YouTube or someone like that to protect us from evil? I don't think so. I don't need anybody to protect me from evil, because there's a gun in every room of my house. You come in my house and I don't want you here, you're not leaving it. I mean, at some point, the government has got to realize people have to take responsibility for themselves and protect themselves. I mean, we can't just keep giving money to people because they don't want to work or they can't do something to earn an income. I mean, come on, there's something for everybody. You just got to go out and find it. It's like my back. I broke it 3 years ago, but I don't get any government assistance. I'm not on disability. I do what I can at a job that I can do, and I'm going back to school to further my education to get a master's degree so I can teach college. Yeah, and don't tell people that what you have or how many you have either, because sooner or later they're going to try and come after those, because a lot of the Democrats have that on their agenda. They want the gun grab, and I'm sorry, whenever you grab my gun, you're going to be grabbing from the wrong end, and I'm going to pull the trigger. You're not taking my guns from me. That's my Second Amendment right, and by God, I'm keeping it. Yeah, you're right, Chrissy. They'll probably have some automated robot going through comments, deciding what's appropriate and what's not. And that's bad enough whenever we can put people to work, actually pay them a salary instead of a robot. Oh, yeah, and a lot of doctors will ask you about if you own firearms and firearms in your home now. And I just look at them and say, what's that got to do with me having a cough and a cold? I didn't get it from a gun. And it's none of your business what I have in my house. That's just like being pulled over by the police officers. They always see my concealed carry weapons permit. Do you have a firearm in your vehicle, sir? Not at the moment, but if I did, would there be a problem? Well, it's for our safety. No, it's for your safety, buddy. I'm armed in case I come across that active shooter and I take him out before you get there, because you were too busy doing like that guy at the school down in Florida and you were hiding outside. They ain't gonna show up till the shooting's over. Yeah, Amy. Doctors will ask. A lot of doctors will ask if you own firearms, and that's sad because that's not a health issue. I mean, I understand gun violence causes a lot of hospitalizations and health problems for some people, but That's not the number one killer in this country. The number one killer in this country is high blood pressure and heart disease, not guns. Granted, you might have a heart attack if somebody pointed a gun at you and die, but I mean, the gun didn't kill you. And guns don't kill people. People kill people. Oh, self checkout, I will not use. No way. If they don't give me a discount for doing somebody else's job that should be ringing me up and bagging my groceries, they're not giving me a discount for doing that job. I'm not using it because I took a job away from somebody else who could use one. I refuse to use self checkout. And the more I talk, the more my cigarette keeps going out. So maybe I need to do these live streams more often. They're actually helping me quit smoking. Yeah, if somebody calls in to the sheriff's department, they can do a health check to see if you're stable, and they can confiscate your guns if they deem you unstable. And a lot of that is just somebody being angry at another person. But granted, there are times when it needs to happen, and I have no problem with that, but it has to be legitimate. And it doesn't need to be a police officer or a judge deciding if you're unstable. It needs to be a healthcare professional deciding if you're unstable. But then again, um, I subscribe to a channel called Think Like a Cop, and he goes over. He's an ex police officer, and he goes over the law inside and out, what your rights are and what they aren't whenever it comes to searches and seizures and keeping your mouth shut. And by all means, he says, keep your mouth shut whenever the police are around. You know, you may go to jail because you kept your mouth shut, but at the same time, if you go to jail, more than likely you're going to get off and you're not going to be charged and have a record. All you'll have is an arrest record. You won't have a conviction record. And that is my policy. Anytime I get pulled over, they ask me for my license, insurance, and registration. I'll look at them and I'll say, if I hand you this, is this going to be used against me? And if they say it can be, I will say, then under my Fifth Amendment rights, I am not going to give this to you. You can get anything you need from the tag of my car. That's in visible, plain visible sight. That is visible for a search. So you can get any information you want from my tag number. And cops around here, most of them know that I'm pretty well versed in my constitutional rights, and they know I'm not going to be run over, and they know I'm not getting out of the car because once you get out of the car, that opens up a whole bag of worms where then they've got reasonable suspicion, and then that gives them the opportunity to go through everything in your car. And I made that mistake one time, and whenever I got back in my car, everything was strewn from hell to creation. I do not like cops at all. 90% of them were bullied in school and they want to get back at people for being bullied. And the other 5%, or I'll say 4%, were bullies that want to keep being bullies. And only 1% actually have the right intentions of taking the job, which is to serve and protect. Most of them, they're not there for anything other than a paycheck and to harass somebody. Well, I see some of my chickens made it around to the front yard. Better to be in the front yard than the backyard. Backyard's where the garden is. The front yard's where visitors got to step in chicken coop. I don't mind if they carry some home. I live in a small town, so most of the cops here are dirty. They, let's put it this way, for over 20 years, we had a sheriff who was crooked, and we didn't have very many drug busts. Then the next sheriff we got, his brother was arrested for growing marijuana on the back of a flatbed semi trailer. He had a Barca lounger set up at the front. He had a TV on it and a cooler full of beer. And he would sit out there all day long and just watch TV. And in the afternoon, he would move that trailer somewhere else. And it was within sight of his brother, the sheriff's house. And the sheriff never knew it was there. He had no idea his brother was growing marijuana. Come on now, really? Yeah, but the problem is the good ones don't get promoted. So they get frustrated and they leave and they go find work in the private sector. The bad ones are the ones that stay because they'll be promoted and then they'll wind up in internal affairs. So whenever a cop is being investigated or a complaint's filed against him, nothing's going to happen to him. It's all a catch 22 when it comes to law enforcement. And they wonder why so many cops are being shot at now and killed lately. And then they have the nerve to ask you to donate to the officers' widows victims fund because her husband was killed on duty. Da 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 da. No, In my state, part of the pay package is a $1 million life insurance policy if you're killed on the job. No, his widow just became a millionaire. I'm not donating money to a millionaire. I'm sorry. And I already donated to that whenever they used my tax money to buy that insurance policy. If you guys will hang on a minute, I'll be right back. Oh, sorry about that. I had to go check my sink. It seems I'm going to have to put another drain line in for my sink because this one is clogged up. But before I do that, I'm going to go get me a can of Red Devil Lye and pour down in there and see if I can't dissolve whatever grease the idiot that lived here before poured down the drain. This the house I live in is actually my brother-in-law's, and I'm in the process of fixing the place up for him and doing. I do the maintenance in exchange for reduced rent. And actually, they haven't hounded me about rent in 6 months because I've been kind of out of work for that long, and I didn't get as much money back in my college refund from tuition as I thought I would. So I haven't been able to catch them up, but they're not worried about it because I actually keep the place up and I'm improving it little by little. But he would pour grease down the sink, and I've already replaced this line once, but I'm going to have to do it again because I think that I didn't replace enough of it to get to the problem, and I had the hot water on a slow stream trying to just dissolve a way through it, but it, it wasn't working. I'm just going to have to get some lye and put down in there and see if that'll just eat it. I mean, the guy who lived here before me was so lazy that he would shave in the bathroom sink and then just swish his whiskers where he trimmed his beard down. And I finally had to replace that drain too. It was just clogged up with human hair. And I replaced the trap and everything, and that still didn't take care of the problem. So I knew what the problem was, and it was at the other where it made a turn. And I finally just said, you know what? I'll put some lye down it, and that'll eat through it. And sure enough, after a day or so, it dissolved it, and I've had no more problems out of that sink since. So I'm gonna have to do the same thing to the kitchen sink. My house is probably about the same age. I know it was moved here roughly 50 to 60 years ago because it's actually family property. My brother-in-law bought this place, but it was owned originally by my father's uncle. Yeah, my father's uncle owned this place originally. And then after he passed away, his wife stayed here. And then once she passed away, the children decided to sell, and my brother in law bought it about 25 or 30 years ago. And now I'm working on buying it. We'll just see how it goes. I've got 2 acres and I'm surrounded by a timber company. So there's only a neighbor across the pond, and I'm pretty much by myself. Other than the highway out front, I have no noise. But the timber company, they're going to lose about an acre or so of land if they don't speak up in the next 7 years because they put blue stripes on the trees to mark the property line, and they got it in a zigzag fashion. And property lines don't go in zigzags; they go in straight lines. So I ran a string from where they marked the property to the back corner of my property, and they're about to lose an acre of land because I'm going to fence it in and let my goats have at it. And if they don't say anything for 7 years, and I've done the upkeep on it, and I haven't tried to hide the fact that I've been using it, by law it becomes mine. But if they would actually come in and clean it up, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But then again, all they're interested in is the timber. They don't care if I go back there and cut every oak tree on the place, as long as I don't mess with the pine trees. Yeah, that reminds me of my grandma and grandpa's place uptown. My uncle Tommy used to be able to go out the front door and shoot his shotgun when he was a kid, but then the town grew up around them. And that's how it goes in a lot of places. But if the town ever spreads out as far as I am, because I'm 10 miles from town, it's time for me to pack up and move because that's more people than I want to be around. I live by myself out in the country for a reason because I don't want to be bothered up with people. And the little church down the road, I'm actually the head trustee, and they don't understand the only reason why I'm helping them is because the church is over 100 years old. It was built in 1901, and I've got a degree in historic preservation. And that's my interest in the church. I really have no interest in their denomination because I'm Baptist. I'm not. How do they describe? They describe themselves as Methodist, but they're more uh, they're more Church of God of Prophecy. And whenever I'm praying, don't start that speaking in tongues crap behind me as a prayer. Shut up, listen to my prayer, and then whenever you want to pray, you pray after me. That's the way I was brought up. You listen to whoever's praying if they were asked to pray. You don't join in. And that's usually how it goes when a city grows up around you. It's just like my city in the county I live in. It's illegal to discharge a firearm in the city limits, but it happens. There are a few places where there's still some fields and folks will dove hunt there and they just kind of overlook it. But for the most part, if you're in town and they hear a bang, you can bet there's going to be a cop show up in a few minutes. Now, if they find out there's a shooting going on and it's an ongoing shooting, like a firefight, no, it's going to be the standard half-hour wait time. They're going to wait for you to run out of bullets to kill each other before they go. Because they're not going to take a chance on getting hurt. Bunch of pussies. But yet they'll bully some poor little black kid that was in Hardee's the other night. Walked in, he was getting a hamburger. And next thing you know, 3 cops bum rush him inside the store, getting all over this kid's behind because he's been in and out of jail and trouble with the law, and he wasn't doing anything wrong. He just walked in to get a hamburger, and he was fixing to walk out and be on his way, and they harassed him for 20 minutes. And one cop, I wish I remembered his name, they brought up the thing about the kid said, I even go to church. And the cop took his hat off and said, well, you want to pray now? And if it had been me, I would have slapped the piss out of that cop. You just disrespected my Lord and my Savior by taking your hat off and mocking that kid whenever he said he went to church. I don't care who you are. You did wrong and you mocked the Lord. That don't fly with me. Yeah, or not show up at all. Yeah. Had that happen before too. I don't know what it is with cops, but if they think there's danger to their lives, they're not going to show up. And if they do, they're going to be in full battle gear, I guarantee you. That's right, Christy. And it's like I tell people, we can have a discussion about the Lord, we can have a discussion about politics, but that's all it's going to be is a discussion. Because whenever it comes to God and politics, my mind is already made up and you ain't changing it. I'm sorry. That is just something that ain't going to happen. And if you do persuade me on politics, you ain't persuading me on God, period. I know where my bread is buttered at. My bread is buttered by the Lord. But if you do change my mind about politics, trust me, I will mark that down on my calendar because that'll be the first time anyone has ever changed my mind about politics. And I don't know what we're going to do in this next election. I'm dreading it. It's going to be one hell of just a fiasco. Because so far, every Democrat that has stepped up to the plate is nothing but a communist in disguise. And they don't seem to understand that, oh, I'm a democratic socialist. Okay. What's the difference between socialism and communism? They can't tell you, but I can tell you. Communism is socialism that is forced on you by the government. Socialism is communism you impose on yourself by voting for it. Let that sink in. Alexandria Occasional Cortex, or Ocasio Cortez, whatever her name is, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker. Yeah, they're all Bernie Sanders. And actually, I do like Bernie Sanders. I don't agree with all of what he says, but he does make some good points. But no, I would not vote for any of those. Those guys are nothing but communists, and they don't even realize it. Welcome to my world, because if it weren't for anti-anxiety medicine, my mind would be constantly going in circles between garden, religion, politics, work, school. It would never stop thinking. And every once in a while, I got to have a break to be able to focus on one thing and get that job done and move on to the next. I guess I was one of those kids that should have been diagnosed ADD whenever I was younger, because I definitely have attention deficit disorder. Because I can go from thinking about one thing to another in a heartbeat. But all these Democrats with their social agendas, I mean, yeah, the goodness is in their hearts, but they still have no idea how they're going to pay for it. Oh, but we'll make the tippy tops. They'll pay for it with the higher taxes they make after they make their 10 millionth dollar. Then they pay 70 cents on the dollar. As think like a cop would say, "You big dummy. That just means people are going to cut back on work, and they're not going to make $10 million anymore. They're going to make 9, because they ain't going to give you all their money. Ain't nobody going to work for free. So where's all the money going to come from? They're going to have to start raising taxes on the lower classes." Oh, he sounds like he's in my shoes. My mom and dad are diehard Democrats ever since Ronald Reagan, because Reagan stopped the air traffic controller strike, and he bailed out the railroads. And in bailing out the railroads back in the 80s, he took about a third to half of my dad's retirement to do that. I can understand their point and their dislike for Republicans, but not all Republicans did that, just one. But my dad lost a chunk of money off of that back in the 80s. And the 80s were really tough on him as far as his income because of that. And that decade just wasn't great for farming. He farmed on the side as well as worked for the federal government. But yeah, the 80s were tough on him. So it was like he was born in the Great Depression. So he grew up in the 30s and 40s. So he grew up during hard times, and the 80s just reminded him so much of it. He's been Democrat ever since and can't get over it. And they will sit there and just belittle me all day long because I have voted Republican. And I looked at him and I said, I voted Democrat before too. Does that count for anything? Because I don't care what party you're from. I'm a conservative, but if the Democrat's going to do the better job for me, that's who I'll vote for. So there's pros and cons with both of them. Yeah, it made a big difference on my mom and dad, a real big difference, and it stuck with them. That and the last time they voted Republican, it was for Nixon, and he got impeached, and I think that kind of made him feel a little bit bad because they voted for somebody that got impeached. But then Nixon, hey, he did that to himself. If he hadn't have done that, he still would have won re-election because the polls that I've read on from that time period, he was still the clear leader. He would have won presidential re-election no problem. He didn't have to do the Watergate thing. He didn't have to get involved in that. But that's a history lesson. And I'm from a Democrat family, and I vote who I want. Only problem, not many I have confidence in. Exactly. I vote for who's going to do the best job for me, even though I know they're lying to me. If you ever meet a politician who tells the truth, he's lying because no politician tells the truth. That's why I can't be a politician because I tell it like I see it. I don't. They know that at church. I'll call you out in a heartbeat if I think you're wrong, and I'll tell you exactly what I think. And sometimes, damn it, or hell, or whatever might come out my mouth when I'm doing it. Damn it, you wrong. Let me tell you what it says in so and so. And anytime the big guy from higher up in the church organization comes, they're all scared because they know me and they know I say what's on my mind, and it ain't always liable to be peaches and cream. So they kind of, anytime I go to say something, they all kind of look at me and they got that little look in their eye like, oh my God, what is he going to say? What is he going to say? Please don't let him say anything bad. So far, I've held my tongue. They're proud of me. I've held my tongue, and I haven't told the guy exactly what I think about him, but they're switching denominations, going from New Congregational Methodist Church of Georgia, which the state of Georgia doesn't even recognize, to independent. And they've given me permission to write the church resignation letter. So whenever that time comes, it's going to be a humdinger. And I'm going to leave him with no way possible he has any legal recourse to come back on us. And I've already done that with the setting up a board of trustees for the church. We have 3 main trustees, 2 alternates, and we actually own the church according to the deed. The property deed says the trustees own the church, so he can't do anything, and that's going to eat him up whenever he sees that. And I'm so looking forward to writing that letter. Oh man, am I looking forward to it? Because first time I met him, I knew he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. The whole governing board of that church organization is made up of his family members, and each one of them has a church of their own in the organization. Yeah, they're they're padding their own little pockets to have their own retirement, nice home paid for by other people. Politicians and ministers at a family reunion, yeah, I could see where that could be kind of fun. That'd be where I'd want to get me a Coke and a bag of popcorn and just sit back and watch. I could imagine some of the conversations and debates. I believe I'd ask for extra butter on my popcorn because it'd have to slide down my throat real quick because I might choke laughing at them. Let's see what the old phone says. Ah, Keeping It Dutch has got another video out. we're not going to watch you right now, Dutch, but I am fixing to check the weather because it is cloud enough out there pretty good. Probably going to have a rainy night at work. That means everybody's going to crawl out the woodwork. Oh, it says 40% chance of rain today, 100% tomorrow. So the hourly, 20% all through the night. And then by 10 a.m., it goes up to 70 and 90% at 11 a.m. tomorrow. So it looks like tomorrow is going to be a rainy day for me, too. I might not get to do anything outside tomorrow, so I might have 2 days where I don't do anything. You too, Christy. Thanks for stopping. I appreciate it. And I might be on later on this evening whenever I get off work. I might try another live stream just see who pops in. This is better than having people over at my house. I can talk to whoever I want to for as long as I want to, and I don't have to worry about cleaning up the mess they leave behind. It's wonderful visitation for me. But you have a good afternoon, and if you're up later tonight and I happen to do another live stream, I hope I see you then. If not, don't hurt yourself trying not to work, and definitely don't hurt yourself if you are working. Glad you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you in a little while. And maybe tomorrow, if it's not raining in the afternoon, when it clears up, I'll be able to get outside and do another video. Potatoes are coming up, so it'll be time for another potato video. Well, it still says you're here, Christy. So if you are, but you just left it running, I'm glad you did. That's getting closer to my 4,000 hours of watch time. Because my goal is actually to get this channel monetized where I can make a little bit of money. I know I'll never get rich, but maybe it'll be enough that I'll be able to pay the power bill or my cell phone bill or something. You know, if I just make 20 or $30 a month, well, I'm happy. I've never had the desire to be rich. Just comfortable is fine with me. I think if I was rich, I wouldn't be the nicest person that I am now, and I really don't consider myself to be that nice. I'm just the guy that makes people laugh, the guy that talks sense, the guy that people ask for advice. and I don't mind being that. But a lot of times I come across as arrogant and rude and an asshole. And hey, it doesn't bother me. First time I meet somebody, I try to be an asshole because if you can tolerate me being an asshole, then chances are you're somebody worth my time investing in as a friend. But then again, I've had that same philosophy with women, and the last couple that have been in my life, they turned out to be worse than me, and I had to just put them on the road. I don't deal with drama very well at all. Another reason why I stay single and to myself. But in case there is no one watching right now, and somebody does happen across the live stream and want to play it back, I might as well go ahead and outline a few of the plans that I have for the future. I've got to expand my chicken run, and I think I will lay out the chicken run this afternoon before work, get my measurements, set my post where they go, and then tomorrow I'll put my post down and start putting up fence wire, and then getting my chickens in there so they don't eat my garden up. And I've got to go back and tighten up my electric fences, get them nice and snug again. What else do I have to do? I have to I have to go through and start clearing out some trees by my pond, get that cleaned up. The pig's doing a really good job at that. She's cleared out a lot so far, but she can't take out the big trees. I got to take those out. And the goats are going to love it because they love eating pine needles. And I'm taking out every pine tree over by that pond. Then I've got to clear a pathway for a fence to go across the property line so that my goats will have access to bushes and brush like they prefer. I see 3 viewers now. Someone has joined us. Who could it be? It could be YouTube miscounting, or it just hasn't showed up in participants yet. Back down to 2. Somebody just popped in. Hey Jim, how you doing? I just got through talking to a couple folks, and I figured if somebody was going to watch the replay, I would just outline what I got planned to do or what I need to get done in the next few weeks. Got to get some fence line, got to cut some brush and things out the way to put up a good fence line for some goats to have access to a wooded area full of brush so they can clean that up for me. I got to extend my chicken run so my chickens will have more room and I don't have to let them free range my yard, which in a few days I'll have English peas sprouting and they'll be eating every one of them. So I got to get them out of my yard because the coop they're in now, I wasn't expecting to have 60 chickens. I was expecting to have about 5 or 10, and I wound up with 60, and I've only got a 30 by 30 chicken run, so I've got to expand that out at least double. I need another 60 foot on the other side of it, so I'll probably lay that out this afternoon before work, and then tomorrow I'll put the post up and try and get at least part of the fence wire strung up on it, get them good and taken care of. Then I've got a few other little odds and ends like tightening up my electric fence wires. They're starting to come loose because I've Ever since a back injury a couple of years ago, I have a bad habit of tripping, and everywhere I go, when I let the chickens free range, they just under my feet, and I have fallen 3 times this week because they just cannot stay away from me. I can throw a bucket of chicken feed at the front of the house. By the time I walk to the back of the house, they've already left the chicken feed behind, and they're under my feet. They got to be where I am. It is kind of like, I don't even know what it's like, but I know what famous people feel like now. Whenever you can't go in, I got little paparazzi with feathers following me around. I wouldn't be surprised if they had cameras and were taking pictures of me. But they have tripped me up so many times, and I'm just waiting on them to get big enough to butcher and put in the freezer. I'm gonna cut the herd down. They are something else, I tell you what. I got hold of my grapevine about a month ago and made a video about it. This thing hadn't been touched in like 10 or 15, probably 15, 20 years. And last fall, I got maybe 10 grapes off of it. And grapes only, they produce on the new growth. So I got back there and I pruned this thing down. And I need to prune some more off of it, but I've done enough for this year. Next year, I can take out some more. But I've done enough that this year I should get some grapes off of it. And the grapes I have are, I'm in the South, so I really don't have like wine grapes or the kind you buy at the store. I've got muscadine and scuppernongs. But man, when I got through, I had a pile of grapevines that were probably 5 foot tall and 6 foot around. And I'm just waiting on them to dry up a little bit more so that I can get them burned, because I really don't know how to weave with grapevines. I could take the time and learn, but I've got so many other things going on that I just don't have extra time to do that. But I couldn't even give these things away to crafters. You know, and these were nice, long, straight ones. But hopefully this year, with a little bit of fertilizer, I'll have me a little crop of grapes, because I'm not interested in making wine or anything like that. But whenever I'm out, and they come in season around the middle of August, September, and when I'm out doing the fall garden stuff, getting ready, you know, it's nice to be able to step over 5 or 10 foot, get you a little snack, and have something to eat while you're out there. And hopefully this year I'll be able to catch a few fruit trees on sale at Walmart or Lowe's whenever they start to discontinue them. Because I'd like to have a couple apples and pears and peaches and plums, but I missed the time. I don't know, I might still could get some cuttings off of. There's an apple tree that grows wild on the side of the road. It's a wild crab apple, and you can see the deer in the fall. They've cut this thing down 3 times, and it keeps sprouting back from the roots over the last 20 years. And the deer will just stand up as high as they can and just grab these apples off the tree. Yeah, I've done some grafting. You know, I've had fairly decent success rate at it. I'm not a professional by any means, but I've done some grafting. But I just don't have any apple stock to do with now. But this apple tree just came into bloom, and if I remember today, I'll carry my pruners with me, and I'll stop by on my way to work since I got to be there at 6, and I'll cut me some scions off, and I'll put them in a cup of water while I'm at work. Whenever I get home, I'll just stick them down in some pot and soil and keep it moist, and maybe they'll take root. If not, then, you know, oh well. Because I've actually eaten some of the apples off the tree, and they were pretty sweet for a crab apple. They're worth canning. You know, I mean, they don't last very long. Southern apples, they just don't have a very good hold time on them as far as keeping them for storage, but they're great for canning or freezing. So I'd like to have that. I can still get plums. All I got to do is go over to my dad's. He's got some wild plums, the little yellow ones. They're sweet as can be, and I can dig up a few and I can plant them anytime during the summer as long as I keep them warm. So I'm not worried about that. But probably missed out on the pear cuttings. But he's got Bartlett pears, and I like those fine. But there's a variety I want called Keeper. It comes in later in the season. That way you're not bundled up with so many other fall fruits at once. Plus, if I get enough of them, I can plant a few of them in food plots to deer hunt by because they ripen up right around the same time that rifle season opens up in Georgia. And, and if not rifle season, black powder opens up before it. So I'll have pears that'll attract deer that I can, be able to hunt over a place that'll have food that'll draw them to it, make it a little bit easier. Which I haven't really done much deer hunting in the past several years, and I kind of miss it. But maybe this next fall I'll have the time that I can get out there and do that because I do like the deer hunt. I'm not a trophy hunter. If I see the big buck, yeah, I'll take it. But if I see a 6 point, I'm gonna let it walk because I'd much rather shoot a doe. If you want big bucks, you got to get rid of the does because does will run their bucklings off and they'll have to go somewhere else to find a place to live, and then you don't have very many bucks in your area. People don't realize that. They just want that big buck. Plus, a doe is a lot better tasting, a lot better eating animal because they're not nearly as tough. So I'm primarily a doe shooter. Yeah, my dad's Bartlett pear, if you go by in the fall before they're ripe, starting about mid to late summer when they get heavy on the limbs, you'll see he's gone out and cut a bunch of gallberry bushes or myrtle bush limbs, and he's got them all staked up and propped up, keeping them up so that they don't break the limbs. But I think the last year, I think he went and he actually pruned it back quite a bit. But I really want some Japanese plums, those big old nice red ones that you find at the store. And I know I'll have to pay for those because my dad doesn't have any. He used to, but they just finally petered out and died after about 20 years. And he never took the time to dig any up from the root sprouts. Yep, peaches and plums are in the rose family, definitely. And there's a variety of peach that I want to get called Alberta instead of Alberta. There's a Mennonite colony about 2 hours away from me in southwest Georgia, and they grow the Alberta peaches, and those things get as big around as a grapefruit. We call them trash can peaches because if you're inside the house, you got to stand over the trash can and eat them. There's so much juice in them, and they're so sweet, it just goes everywhere. But they are amazing, and I'd love to have a couple of those trees just to be able to. I like my peaches in the freezer instead of canned. It kind of the way that whenever they freeze, the cell structure breaks and it makes them a little bit mushy. So they're better for breads and puddings and pies and stuff like that. They're just easier to work with. Yeah, check them out, Alberta. They're oh my god good. And if somebody from Georgia tells you that this variety of peach is good, y'all listen to them because we're the peach state. There's a reason for it. We grow a lot of them, but they're really good peaches. And if you find somebody that has them, they root fairly easily, so you could probably just get you some cuttings. Or if you've got some peaches that you bought at the store, you can always sprout you a peach pit and then graft onto it, and then you'll have the variety you want. Or for that matter, if you've got a peach pit, you can graft you a plum, a peach, and whatever else is in the Rosa family on it. You can have apricots on it. You can have 4 or 5 different fruit on one stock. I've seen some folks do that, and that's pretty interesting. But I want just a few. I don't want to start an orchard, and if I have enough to sell a few, that's fine. I'm not in it for the money. I'm just in it for me. I just want to not buy anything from the grocery store if I can help it. Hopefully one day I'll have a place where I can do more than just pigs and goats. I'd like to have a couple cows. Yeah, down here in the South, it's hard for us to grow apples. The humidity and the heat really does a number on them with funguses and stuff like that. So we have very few varieties we can grow. If you follow Deep South Homestead with Danny and Wanda, pretty much the same varieties he grows. I think he grows Gala. I'm not I'm not sure if that's it. I can't remember his names right offhand, but the varieties he grows, I can grow those here, and those are more of a summer apple. And the storage isn't it isn't a long time on them, so you have to preserve them. You have to freeze them or even can them. In an apple, I would more than likely can instead of freeze. So that way, I can have a nice little half apple with a little bit of stuff in the center of it, a little cinnamon sprinkled on it, and have a little mini apple pie, or maybe a tart. Wrap it up in a little pastry puff and deep fry it. I'm making myself hungry now. I got to stop. But yeah, I just moved to this place in February, and it's just a little over 2 acres. And the timber company beside me, if they don't complain in the next 7 years, they're going to lose about an acre because it's getting fenced in. Because if they keep the brush down, I wouldn't have a problem. But it's brush galore and that snake heaven. And I made a deal with snakes a long time ago. If I walk out my front door and I don't hear you or see you, you can live. If I'm in the woods and I run across you, you can live because that's your house. You don't come to my house and bother me, I won't go to your house and bother you. But anytime I find a rat snake or something that's like that, oh yeah, he's getting caught. He's coming home. I let him go. I let him go around the house. As long as they don't get into my chicken coop, we're good. Once they get into the chicken coop, I ain't gonna kill him, but I will relocate him about 5, 6 miles down the road. And I have seen some rat snakes get up to 10 foot long, and I just want to know what them things have been eating to get that big. But back in college, me and a buddy, we took a herpetology class, and we had to go catch specimens. We lifted it, and this was on the college campus. They had a little dump pile. There was a car hood back there, and we lifted up that hood, and there's this gray rat snake. And when we measured it, it was over 9 feet long, and it was as big around as a 6 inch fence post. This thing was huge. And we both grabbed a hold of its tail end, and it drug us through briars. I'm talking about that was one of the strongest animals I've ever come across. I would have not wanted that thing to make a loop around my body because there would have been no way this other guy could have unwound it. It would have wound up killing me. That thing was so strong. But then again, at the same time, I also kept a couple baby rat snakes in my dorm room. And I would feed them mice every week. They'd get two mice, and each one get two of them. Cost me a total of $4 because mice were only $1 a piece back then. And I would charge people $5 a head to come watch the snakes eat. And I'm telling you, I would have 15 or 20 people in my dorm room watching these snakes eat at $5 a head. They bought my beard all through college. And I was the only guy. I could leave my dorm room open and not have to worry about anything going missing because people knew I had snakes in there. They weren't going in there. But nowadays, you can't get away with that. They won't let you do any of that. And I'm back in school now, and I see the difference between now and whenever I first started college back in the early 90s, late 80s. It has changed so much. The quality of education is just worthless now. They want to do everything online, and I'm sorry, online learning, it might have some advantages, but for the most part, it's a crock of bull crap because you don't get the quality of education that you do whenever you sit there and you listen to an instructor face to face and you see them write notes on the board and stuff like that. The quality's not there. I feel like my former education and my former degree is devalued, and I'm only there now getting my GPA up so I can get into grad school for history because I'm going to try and stick with historical agriculture because I've already got a degree in historic preservation. Rattle less rattlesnakes, the redneck burglar. They come into the house, but they don't leave here. There's a firearm in every room right in arm's reach. Well, the one in this one ain't. I got to actually make one step to get it, but right over that way, 5 foot, there's two shotguns and two rifles. Right over here, behind this wall that you see, there's a pistol. Inside that room, right on the other side of that wall, there's two or three firearms in there. There's also a 30-30 and an 8 millimeter Mauser in there, and a 50 caliber black powder rifle. Oh, I see what you're talking about. About 20 years ago, there was a fella in Florida that had a um, convenience store, and he was constantly getting robbed after he closed the place. So he put rattlesnakes in the store overnight. And in the morning, he would go in with his snake stick and he would catch them and put them back in the box, let them go every evening. Well, some dumbass goes through the roof, down through the tile, and he gets bit, even though the man had a sign on the door that says protected by rattlesnakes. And this is in Florida. The state of Florida charged him for attempted murder. I don't know how the case turned out. They never said, but that's just a shame. It was good chatting with you too, Jim. Yeah, our rain's coming tomorrow, they say, but I got a feeling it'll be here later on this evening or night. It's always a little bit early. But glad talking to you, my friend. You have a good afternoon. Try to stay dry. Yeah, I can see where they'd say it's a booby trap. But then again, is it a booby trap whenever you put up a sign that says protected by an attack dog? Attack dogs can be life threatening. The sign itself gives you fair warning. Plus, you're in a place you ought not be. So, but then again, the federal government has to take care of us poor citizens because we can't take care of ourselves. Just like YouTube, they've changed it to where if there is a minor in your video, they have blocked all comments. You can't comment on a video that has minors in it now because of predators and child predation. And I'm thinking to myself, people like Justin Rhodes, Jess at Roots and Refuge, they're responsible vloggers. They read their comments. I think they would report them. I mean, really, are we to the point that we cannot take care of ourselves? I mean, we all hide our addresses, our phone numbers. It's not like anyone can find us unless we want them to. Yeah, you're right. Government doesn't have to make sense. They just have to make life hard. And as John Wayne once said, life is hard. It's even harder for stupid people. So I can only imagine what the government goes through. But it's good to see you, J Dog. I'm avoiding doing work this afternoon. So what's up with you? Because I think the only thing I'm going to get done today is I'm going to go lay out where my new chicken run is going to be, and then tomorrow I'll get to work on putting the post down and stretching the wire because I just really don't feel like going outside, even though it's not raining. And tomorrow it probably will be, and I won't get to do it. But oh well, I just don't feel like going outside today and doing anything other than feeding my animals before I go to work again. Yeah, Justin Rhodes put out a video. YouTube has stopped all comments on videos that have minors in them because of child predators and some of the comments being left as if a responsible vlogger like Justin or Jess at Roots and Refuge or Rose at Wholesome Roots, like they don't go through their comments and read them anyway, or alumna for that matter. I mean, if it's inappropriate, they're going to report it. Why does YouTube have to be our protector? She has three girls and a boy. Which one is this? Jess. But the thing I'm getting at is YouTube blocking comments on any video that has a minor in it. You know, somewhere along the line, the American people have to be responsible for themselves. We can't just let everybody do it for us. I mean, what are we going to do? Go through life with the government holding our hand? They were blocked on Justin Rhodes, and he got a letter from his YouTube representative explaining why. And then I clicked on Jess's video, and there were comments, and her kids were in it. So I left a comment explaining what I'd seen on Justin's video. So hopefully she'll see that, and word's going to spread, or either they found a comment that they thought was offensive in Justin's comment section. I don't know, but I know Justin goes through all his comments because anytime I make a comment on Justin's channel, he always gives it a heart. So I know he reads them. And I'm pretty sure, being the responsible man that he is and good father that he is, that if he saw something inappropriate, he's going to report it. Just like Jess would, just like Rose would, just like I would. I mean, I've reported users before for some of the things that they've said and done. I mean, I believe it's up to the individual to decide what's appropriate. It's not up to you to decide what's appropriate. Obviously, hate speech and things like that, yeah, help us out with that, because sometimes people, what they consider hate speech isn't hate speech, and what is hate speech is not hate speech. I mean, that's a big gray area. But whenever it comes to blocking comments on a video just because there's a minor in it, I think YouTube's overstepping their bounds. But whenever I saw Justin's video on that, it blew my mind. I mean, a lot of these homesteaders, this is family oriented programming. Well, I'm sure Justin hadn't posted anything that they didn't like, but Justin did leave his Instagram account so that the videos that have his kids in them, which are pretty much all of them, if you want to leave comments, you can go over to his Instagram account and you can leave a comment there and carry on the discussion. But you're right. I don't think this is going to stand. I think they'll probably come up with some robot that goes through comments, which personally I think is an invasion of our privacy, but we don't have privacy on YouTube anyway. They read and see everything we do anyhow, whether we want them to or not. But yeah, I believe it'll all get worked out, and the commenting will be allowed back. But I got a feeling there'll be a lot of scrutiny whenever it comes to that. But I mean, somewhere along the line, people have to take responsibility for themselves, and not depend on YouTube or the government to do it for you. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I don't need the government's help to take care of me. I don't need food stamps. I don't need welfare. I don't need. All I need is my tax money paid back to me at the end of the year, and then them for the rest of the year leave me alone. Now, photo DNA is new to me, but I know that they've got that facial recognition technology that's giving people fits. And I don't really agree with facial recognition technology because there are too many people that look too similar that can be recognized and mistaken for someone else. I don't go for that. That's just like everybody makes a big deal about genetically modified seed. Sorry, guys, don't make a big deal about it because you're not going to be able to go to your seed store and buy any of it anyway unless you're an ag producer who grows acres and acres of something. It's not for sale to the general public. And GMO organisms, I don't agree with anyway. This new CRISPR technology, which is where they splice individual segments of DNA from one organism and insert it into another organism. I mean, we're really crossing the line where we're playing God, and I don't think it's going to end up well. I don't care if they tell me it's safe to eat or not. I don't want it because they haven't had enough time to do enough studies on that. I mean, it's like they used to have the soap that had the little microbead scrubbers in it. Well, about 2 years ago, they banned those because they found out that those little silica beads that were the scrubbers were getting eaten by small amphibians and small fish and stuff. and winding up in the food chain and then back in people. That can't be very good for you, I'm sure. Like Teflon coated cookware, Morgan ain't using it. Sorry. Morgan only cooks in cast iron, and I have one aluminum pot that was my grandmother's. Other than that, it's all cast iron. That's all Morgan cooks in. Because unless I know the source of the stainless steel, it ain't coming in either, because some stainless steel is contaminated. And I ain't having it. And some of it's your name brand stainless steel they sell at Walmart. So you got to actually read carefully. Read where that stainless steel came from. Read what's in it. And they usually tell you on the boxes. Oh yeah, kind of like the facial recognition technology they got. Yeah, I see what you're saying now. Which if they'd let me just have one or two of these people convicted of child porn for an afternoon, I believe I could get rid of a lot of it. Bring him down here to South Georgia and tie him to a pine tree and pour honey down the crotch of his britches by a fire ant bed, and that'll let that be videoed and thrown up on the web. That'll stop a lot of it real quick, because that ain't gonna be pretty. And it won't take but an hour or two before that fella's dead, painfully and deservedly. Oh, the Holler Homestead's got a new video up. I have to check that out later on. Yeah, I see what you're saying. And personally, I wouldn't be videoing my kids in the park going down a slide anyway, because there's, even though it's a public place and you're allowed by federal law to film anywhere in public because you have no perceived right to privacy in public. A park is a place where kids are and kids congregate, and it's a slippery slope, and I wouldn't even go there. I would not film anything at a public park unless it was nothing but adults. Just because somebody sees their kid in your video, they make a big stink about it, even though it's legal for you to be filming. They make a big stink about it because they don't know who you are, and it's just going to cause you trouble, and you'll be investigated, and it's going to wind up ruining your reputation and your credibility with not just YouTube, but the people you live around. So, I see exactly your point there. And And especially if it's a kid going down the slide that's a girl and she happens to be wearing a dress. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that point wholeheartedly. But in regards to making comments on people's videos, a lot of that should be left up to the vlogger. You know, they if they're responsible like we are, I know you probably check all of your comments. I check all of mine. I've even got mine set to where certain words are flagged and it's held for review, and I report them. You know, I'm not going to tolerate the BS or the drama on my channel, and I'm pretty sure these other folks that are responsible aren't either. You know, so sooner or later we got to get to a point that yeah, you're right. And the comments ought not be disabled on that. The video itself ought to be disabled, and the reason why explain to the parents that they're exposing their kids in a way that is not appropriate. You know, so I mean, some parents are just blithering idiots. I'll be honest with you. You know, but some of them are just naive and they don't realize that there are child predators out there, and some of them can notice landmarks and see where they are and go snatch a kid. They don't they don't see danger where it is, but you know, at some point that we've got to strike a balance between self responsibility and government responsibility. You're right. A lot of parents don't monitor their kids, and my kids are all grown. And I've only had one troll, and I took care of him quick. Reported him real fast because whenever he said he hoped my kid and my grandkid got cancer, report hate speech, because I would never wish that on anybody. And he wished that on me just because I ate meat. Really. The liberal left, if they would only make a hunting season where you could shoot people on the liberal left, the world would be a much happier place. But then we would run out of liberals, and then we'd have to go back to shooting animals again. And that would raise a whole new crop of liberals that don't want us to hunt. I agree with you. There are a lot of stupid stuff on YouTube. And some of the stupid things I've seen, I wanted to leave a comment, but I didn't feel like wasting my time and just let them know, hey, you owe me 5 minutes of my life back. And the reason why I say 5 minutes, because the 1 minute I lost, I thought about for 4 minutes about how stupid I was to sit there and watch that whole 1 minute. That's 5 minutes of my life I lost. But what gets me is not only is there stupid stuff, but how many people follow the stupid stuff? That's the amazing part. How many people follow the stupid stuff? It's bad enough to have one person posting it, but then you got 360,000 of them following it. Like some of these homesteaders out in the country. That's a pair of blithering idiots that don't need to be doing what they're doing. I'll be honest with you. And then they say they don't get any government support, but yet they've got their PayPal account linked down there for donations. No, you don't have government support because you've got $36,000, 36,000 followers all donating to you, sending you gifts in the mail off your Amazon wish list. You don't see that crap on my page. On my page, it says if you want to help out and donate to my cause, because I donate a lot of probably half of my garden goes to other people. I donate it. If you want to help me out with a donation, contact me first to see if I will accept it. Because I'd much rather have a fence post than I would $10 in cash. I'd much rather have a roll of fence wire to work with than I would $100 in cash. I don't need your cash. Matter of fact, I don't need your fence wire or your fence post. I can get it on my own. But if you want to help out, I'll let you help out. But I'm picky about what I will accept. I'm not accepting your money. I'm not accepting gifts that I want off Amazon. I'll just save my money until I can afford to get it myself. But people like out in the country, they're nothing but social freeloaders. You know, and I follow Bobblehead Homestead because I halfway like him and I understand his plight and I see why people do a lot for him. He's got Parkinson's and it's only a matter of time before he won't be able to do much. So, you know, oh, we're buffering. I've got Patreon, but I haven't really started it yet. And I probably will link my PayPal, but if somebody sends me money, they're going to get something in return. I don't want just free money. All right, J Dog. Good talking to you, man. If I'm back on later after work, maybe I'll see you then. You have a good one and don't get wet and don't work too hard today. Well, Christy apparently left hers still running, so I will stay on a little while longer. See if anyone else shows up. the meantime, if anyone is here, I will be right back because I have some potting soil that is soaking to be moistened, and I've got some cups that I'm fixing to put some soil in to start a few seeds. If I'm not going to do anything outside today, I might as well do something inside.